Okay. KMS 12336, the most hated patch to date by Korean MapleStory players. I guess making all of the protagonists mainly K-pop stars is not enough. All right, the people want more. They want more than BTS meets, meets K-pop. This video, if you look at it on YouTube, has a whopping 190 upvotes and 1,100 plus downvotes. People not very pleased.
안녕하세요. GM 노리입니다.
안녕하세요.
7월 23일 업데이트 소식을 안내해 드릴게요.
Hang on. Okay, it says Agag Song V, I think, and then C Gun. Okay, I don't know what those words mean.
깨달음에 한 걸음 더. 천공의 비급을 습득하고 잠든 선인을 깨워보세요. 수련을 놓쳤거나 뒤늦게 참여한 용사님.
Big rewards that we save up for, I guess.
하루에 한 번 더 보충 수련을 할 수 있답니다.
Potential scroll at the end. A big ring.
다양해졌습니다. 천공의 검의 기운을 채워넣으면
Special skills and events.
눈앞에서 볼 수 있고
More ninja pandas. Okay, these chairs look really fucking cool. This guy's just like cutting boards left, right, left, right. Ha! And then this guy's like doing a fighting scene and everything. I think that looks pretty cool. Regular minigames, 4th V.
경험을 바꿔줄 새로운 힘, 신규 5차 스킬이 추가되었습니다. 이에 맞춰 V 매트릭스의 기본 최대 슬롯이 한 칸 증가하고
Extra matrix slot,
5차 전직
extra free skill.
스킬 코어를 드린답니다. 받을 수 있으니 새로운 스킬을 활용해 모험의 재미를 더해보세요.
And then season 6 or chapter 6 in the storyline, lore development. So I guess the people are just unhappy. They're saying it's not enough, right? They wanted a new area, they wanted a new job. So on the one hand, I get it. You know, summer updates are supposed to be huge in Korea. On the other hand, I don't know to which extent the corona stuff really just messed up plannings and the amount of stuff that they could actually get done properly and implement properly. And the last thing is, just because there's an expectation of something doesn't mean that the other party, in this sense the game, has the obligation to fulfill on that expectation that you have, right? Just because usually there's a job being released, that doesn't mean that because they don't release a job that therefore they suck or something, right? You have to also be able to take a step back and see, like, well, you're just putting that expectation on them. Doesn't mean that they have to, right? You can still be mad that they don't have it, I guess, but you also have to be aware of the fact that you're just putting that expectation there. And there was not like a promise, like, oh, there's a new job coming out or anything, right? We have had in the past that summer or winter events did not have a job release. And then by the next summer, winter after that, we actually had 3 extra jobs. If you remember, like, I think it was Arc and then Illium. And I think around there, Cadena, like, those were really close release to each other as well. So, you know, it's not because there's no job, no new job now that we're not going to have, like, the average of 2 jobs a year being released. It just means that, you know, it's being pushed back a little bit. And honestly, I'd rather have them push it back and make it a proper release than to, like, push it early and have it be a shit show. So, but yeah, that's just me. But I guess I've learned to put my expectations low when it comes to new content release. Okay. So let's look at the actual skills. We can talk a little bit about the transformations that they went through and then what their final stage is going to be on. So number of base slots went from 4 to 5, and you do get the 5th one for free. And if you already completed it before, you have like a month period, roughly, where you can just complete a quest and then you get your new skill for free, at least the level 1. But if you're high level, it doesn't really matter because it's just one of the 50 or something, I don't know, that you're going to make to max it. But if you're low level, you can just get access to it for free. That's pretty cool. So the hero skill, you just do like one swipe, and then there's like a resulting effect that just does a bunch of damage. They ended with 12 slash attacks are activated, each dealing 250% damage 4 times and up to 8 enemies. And after that, 5 explosions are activated, each deal 500% damage 5 times. With a cooldown of 30 seconds. Okay. So this is supposed to be on the level of Ruin by Adele, I guess. It's like, you know, you throw it out there and then it just does its own thing, does its damage, bunch of explosions, and half-minute cooldown. Pretty sure that's what Ruin has, right? You do more work at home than you did in the office as a dev? Yeah, I think the individual might be able to work more, but I don't know if a company can necessarily get more done because of communications in general being harder, right? It probably depends on like business to business how you're set up already and like how the office culture is and everything. Okay, so that's the numbers that they ended with. So that's what, 4 times, so that's 1,000, so that's 12,000 damage. And then an explosion of 12,500, I think. Yeah. So a total of 24,500 damage, percentage damage every 30 seconds. According to Zelpex, it can proc final attack as well. Ooh, every single line? Oh, that's pretty nice. Paladin. Oh, does anyone have the video of the Paladin in the river? Ooh. Hello? Hello? Hi. What's up? Hey. Okay. Sorry. You're getting distracted here. So we have the giant hammer. This hammer saw some changes, basically in functionality with how far it bounced, how big the AoE around the explosion was. Hammer turns you on. Honestly, this is making me almost like feel like I should be trying a Paladin. It looks pretty cool. Does anyone have the video? Link it in the chat if you have it, okay? Summon and throw the Ancient God's Hammer, which tracks enemies and attacks them. You can throw it in 4 different directions by using this skill with the arrow keys. Hammer will track an enemy, attack them, and then activate a powerful shockwave. The hammer will attack repeatedly, but other than the first enemy, it will prioritize the enemy with the highest maximum HP and range. Nice. If any of the hammer's attacks hit an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Nice. You know, instead of adding this to all the skills, just remove damage reflect. Just get rid of it. Let's see. Consumes 500 MP. Deals 450% damage 6 times on 1 enemy with an additional 50% critical rate. Okay, this is not necessary. Okay, this far in the game, everyone has 100%. Up to 4 enemies will be tracked in a row, including the first attack. Okay, so 3 extra after the first enemy you target. After it hits a tracked enemy, it will activate a shockwave that deals 500% damage 9 times on up to 6 enemies around it. Wow. And you prepare 1 hammer every 15 seconds, so that's kind of steep. And you can store up to 2 hammers, and they have a cooldown of 2.5 seconds. So when you're bossing, you just, you'll hold on to these, and then every 30 seconds you just throw 2 of them out as you use some other buffs if you have something on 30-second cooldown. Or you just, throw them out whenever it's necessary. I think this will be really nice to do like extra... Like low-level Lucid people, they will have some big extra golem clear because of the shockwaves around them. If there's a bunch of golems, they will get cleared pretty hard. And if you're standing on one side, they will just get thrown 2 Lucid, so they will like pass through all the other dudes, and all the golems around her will take a lot of hits. All I got. Yeah, no. Somebody said there was a video of a Paladin, and they threw out the hammer to like the left side, and then they jumped into the torrent river and went to the side, and the hammer is like trying to catch up to them, but it's not catching them. Yeah. So it's pretty big damage. The explosion looks really nice. So this is 4,500 on 6 enemies, and it bounces a total of like it explodes and like bounces a total of 3 extra times. So this explosion goes off 4 times per hammer. This is a bit steep, but I think it makes sense because it seems like a pretty strong extra weapon in the arsenal of Paladin. So that seems promising. So the Dark Knight skill saw some changes. In the beginning, it was just like a temporary shield. Then it became like a buff plus an explosion at the end, with a little bit of a sprite malfunction there on the GIF, sadly. So boost your combat instincts, draining nearby enemies of their life force while growing your Dark Aura. Dark Aura will react with existing skills, giving additional special effects with Hyper Body and Iron Will. And Hyper Body and Iron Will, I think, will become personal skills, right? No longer party buffs. If Darkness Aura's attacks hit an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. If you reuse, wow, that's a difficult word, dude. If you reuse the skill, it'll instantly end, and the absorbed life force will explode. So we'll get back to life force in a little bit. You can end a skill with no cast action during Gunnar's Descent, Dark Synthesis, and Pierce Cyclone's final attack. Okay. For 40 seconds, deal 800%. Oh, these are level 25 descriptions, by the way, so those numbers will be tweaked a little bit higher as you put the level 25 nodes into a level 5 slot, giving it that level 30 boost, of course. For 40 seconds, deal 800% damage 5 times and up to 6 enemies every few seconds. Oh, that's already pretty nice. What is it cooldown? 180 seconds, and it lasts for 40. Okay, so 140 second downtime. 40 out of 130. Okay, so that's like 22% uptime or something. If your HP is... Oh, wait. Yeah, heal 6% of your max HP per attack and acquire 1 life force. So there's the life force that we talked about. If your HP is full, create a shield equal to 75% of the heal amount. So 75% of 6%, so that's 4%, right? No, 4.5%. 4.5% of your max HP if your HP is full per shield tick. You can acquire up to 15 life force, and the shield amount cannot exceed 27% of your maximum HP. Okay. Alright. So it's like 6 ticks or something? 6 ticks? 6, 25? Yeah, 6 ticks of shield. And 15 life force. So while Hyper Body is active, every few seconds create a shield up to the maximum amount. So that's nice. If Iron Will is active, decrease the damage taken, including percentage HP attacks, by 9%. So this will just allow you... And I think this means that you just have Darkness Aura on, and then if you're just bossing, you just are in a Hyper Body, and then you can basically, if you're about to be hit by a skill that's going to kill you and your shield is gone, you could just pop Iron Will to survive the hit, and then Iron Will is going to become like a mini iframe. And the Hyper Body is just going to be used to get like your general survivability up. That's pretty interesting. And then when the skill is reused or it ends, you activate Life Force Explosion. It deals 1,275% damage 13 times on up to 8 enemies. And 1 additional explosion will be activated for every 3 Life Force acquired. Okay. Before it was 1 for every Life Force. So if you get 15 Life Force, you can get 5 additional explosions for a total amount of 72 times 1,275 for a total of 91,800% damage, which is not like one of the highest things in the game or anything, but that's a decent amount of percentage damage, because we looked at before, right, as what the hero explosion, both of those combined was like 25,000 damage. So you're looking at almost like 4 times the explosion damage max possible here. How do Fire Poison Mages do in the end game, bossing and farming? End game? Well, end game, you typically don't really farm anymore. You're at 275. So it's, 78 lines? Wait, did I miss one? 5. Wait, 6 times 13 is 72, isn't it? Oh, it's 78. You're right. It's 78 lines. Okay. So it's 6,000, 7,500 on top of that. Okay. So it's like, it's closer to 100k then. Yep. Thanks for checking the math. Yeah, Fire Poison endgame bossing actually do pretty well. The downside is that they don't have a lot of party buffs. They don't really have any utility, but they have very good solo damage because they have very short cooldowns on their 5th jobs that they can constantly keep reusing and reusing. So a lot of reliable damage all the time. Mobbing wise, bossing wise, I think they do okay. Mobbing wise, I think they do okay as well. But they mostly just mob as an Ice Lightning because that's just still way easier to do. It's 1400 at level 30. Wow, that goes up by quite a bit. So that ends up being 1400 times 78, which is 109,200. That becomes pretty significant. I mean, I don't know how likely is it going to be to get all 15 life force, and if you miss one stack, then you immediately miss one of your explosions, right? So it's probably more likely that you get 4 extra explosions, so that's 5 instead. And then you're at then you're at 65 times, right? 1400. It's still 91,000 damage though. Are you happy with this? It's not hard. Well, because that's the max, right? What is the interval of It says every few seconds. Because it says every few seconds for Frenzy as well, but that's about every 4 seconds for us. Is this like literally every 2 seconds? Because then it's 20 hits. Hitting 15 out of the 20 might be doable. Way more doable than... but yeah, this seemed like an interesting extra skill. Like potential for a big burst explosion at the end. More survivability outside of Final Pact, which Dark Knight definitely needed. Honestly, I think with all the tweaks we saw in between, I think honestly a good skill for Dark Knight. You get like 6 hits off in 10 seconds. Oh, that's really fast. Okay. Yeah, he plays in KMS and plays Dark Knight, so I'm going to defer to Kobe on this one. Yeah, that's actually... Wow. I'm kind of impressed with how well this skill came together. Yeah, the initial one I wasn't happy with. When they added the second effect, I was like, oh, this is definitely better. And I feel like with the third and final form here, it's actually come together as like a really solid skill. Not super overpowered, but it gives utility that the class is lacking, with the potential for like outplayability. I think it's going to be really interesting that you're going to be like tapping Iron Will to survive one-shots now. If this skill is active. But yeah, like the one downside, quote unquote, I guess, is that it's 40-second duration and 180-second cooldown. So that is something that you have to be managing outside of all the other stuff. But like for solo bossing and stuff, I think this will give you a lot more capability, but just more survivability for harder bosses as well. So I think this is honestly solid. This seems like they actually know the class. And know what the class is lacking and like filled that gap without it making it now a brain dead class. Like it's outplayable, but it still requires skill. Either use it for survivability or become glass cannon treated at burst. Yeah, basically, yeah. Archmage Fire Poison. So this one was changed a little bit throughout the times. So emit a deadly poison, chains between enemies and infects them. Poison enemies will explode after a certain amount of time, receiving damage and infecting nearby enemies. When even if an enemy survives the explosion, the poison will stack and the explosion will become stronger. If an enemy dies or disappears before the explosion activates, nearby enemies will be infected instantly. If you reach the maximum number of explosions, all infected enemies' poison will be removed. Poison chain does not activate elemental drain. Oh yeah. If the explosion hits an enemy using damage reflect, you want to take damage. Nice. 600%, 4 times on one enemy and infects them with poison for 20 seconds. Poison enemy will activate an explosion every few seconds that deals... I don't like the few seconds. Why don't they just say every 2 seconds, every 3, every 4, every 1.5? Is this just because of server lag? It might be a different number, therefore they don't want to give the exact number. Poison enemy will activate an explosion that deals 300% damage 6 times and infects up to 2 nearby enemies. The poison can stack. So this should be... Wow, this should be way better in Reboot, right? Because if we have Kishin or a Totem on, there will be more monsters and they'll be closer together. So the poison will also spread way more easily because monsters will be closer together. Poison can stack up to 5 times, and explosion damage will be increased by 55% points per stack. Explosion can activate on a single enemy up to 9 times and up to 22 times in total. I guess that does mean though that if you kill a lot of monsters with it, then that the amount of explosions will get done with very quickly. If you reach the maximum number of explosions, all infected enemies' poison will be removed, and explosion will be activated 1 additional time. Okay. But yeah, 30-second cooldown skill again. So it initially lasts for 20 seconds, so I'm guessing for bossing this has a very, very high uptime. And then for mobbing, it just depends on how quickly you're killing. If you're killing very quickly, it might be... all of the explosions might be done in like 10 seconds. And then you're just waiting for the cooldown to come back. Or, you know, if they're stronger monsters, more explosions will help you kill higher, stronger maps. But this has a lot of uptime. I'm assuming, though, that if this goes to level 30, that this number and this number stay the same, is what I'm assuming. So no extra uptime there. Don't expect the skill descriptions to be as detailed as they are already. You don't or you didn't? Okay, Ice Lightning. But this seems like a solid extra skill for sure. So this was like you shoot something into a target and then it like emits damage and then explodes and stuff. Jupiter Thunder, fire an orb containing the power of the god who controls lightning. The orb will enter the first enemy it touches and deal damage continuously. Every few seconds it will release an electric current that hits nearby enemies. If the enemy dies or disappears, the orb will appear at the enemy's location and begin moving again. If the orb reaches the maximum number of hits or moves more than a certain range, it will disappear. If Jupiter Thunder hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Just remove damage reflect. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, I'm done. For now, I'll bring it up later. So consumes 1000 HP, 600% damage, 5 times every few seconds. There it is again. On the enemy it touches, there's a maximum of 30 shocks. Every 5 shocks, the freeze stacks will be decreased. Every few seconds, the orb will release an electric current. There it is again. Around the targeted enemy, dealing 400% damage 4 times and up to 2 enemies. That's not massive damage. Cooldown of 75 seconds. When the orb disappears, the cooldown will be decreased by 2.2 seconds per remaining shock count. Oh. And it comes with 30 shocks. So you shouldn't work with so I think if you send this guy out to Madman Ramaru, I think it'll like hit him, he'll transform, the orb will like be released again and like immediately hit him again and then release hit with all the bodies and then just fuck him up, I think. Tell us how you really feel about damage reflect. Okay, it was a thing back in the day. I think it was required to like scale parties down to make sure that they couldn't just like face roll everything, and also make sure that people really needed to learn the mechanics and learn patience. And I think it had its time back in the day. It's basically like religion, okay? Like it started off with like good intentions, and it definitely had a lot of value for building society and building community back in the day. But it's just we don't need it anymore, all right? We can just get rid of it now. It served its purpose. It's been fine. It's been good. Now let's move on. And thank you for the 2 months, Noob Nuts. Thank you again, man. Love the support. Next month, Silver Badge for you. Thank you, thank you. Divine Punishment. Oh, this skill changed a lot. Wow, the description got really short. Okay, let's see. Punish the wicked in the name of God. Okay. Consume 40 MP per attack. Consumes 1 Divine Light per second. Deals 300% damage 5 times and up to 6 enemies in front of you continuously. If you use during Vengeance of the Angel, the number of hits is increased by 5. You will prepare 1 Divine Light every 8.5 seconds, and you can store up to 8. Every 8.5 and up to 8. So what is that, like a minute? Minute and a half? I'm bad with... What, 68 seconds? That's such an awkward time. Okay. Cooldown of 1.5 seconds. So it's basically a burst skill for bishops, right? Just like... Brrr. Bishop go brrr, maybe? Maybe Bishop go brrr. Anyone know what the ping is when playing NA from Reboot EU? It's most likely going to be somewhere around like low 200s to just under 200 to low 200s, most likely. You can check ! ping in the chat for a link to how high you think it's going to be. That's when it does less damage than Angelry. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what these numbers are. 300% damage 5 times. With Vengeance of Angel, the fact that it has 10 lines, is it even good enough to use at that point? Or would you literally only use it if you have like 3 or 4 targets in front of you that could be hit by it? But no, wait, Vengeance of Angel, doesn't that mean that you hit a single target? Or is that's like Angel of Balance or something, right? Is it worth farming Junior Boogies now? Not sure. Haven't tried yet. If you go there for like 10 minutes and you haven't found one, then probably no. I think the meta is just farming common ones now and trying to get lucky. Is the way I see it. And opening, buying a booster pack every day and opening that and hoping that you get something, get lucky there and have like an epic or something. I did kill castle golems yesterday, and I got a common one from there. But apparently, the same monsters can drop both common and rare ones. So I don't know if there's still a chance to get epic or unique ones. But apparently, you can see that in the item ignore section, which I guess we can look at a little bit. Pet exclude items. Castle golem. If I look that up. I guess it still exists, right? So we have the common one, the rare one. And I guess we still have the old legendary one, but no epic one? I'm not sure. Okay, so I'm not sure about this skill. Bowmaster, Silhouette Mirage by moving fast enough to create an illusion. Oh, wait, maybe they made this... Maybe they made this to clear golems for hard lucid or something. Maybe it's just literally only that. I don't know. Or normal lucid, I guess. Bowmaster. Let's see how they ended up doing this. So it's like a shadow partner kind of dude that would also allow you to survive big hits. Moving fast enough to create an illusion of yourself, avoiding enemy attacks. The illusion attacks enemies and distracts them. Reducing damage taken by the Bowmaster. Silhouette Mirage is not affected by buff razors if the illusion's attacks hit an enemy with damage reflect. Wow. If you use a skill, the effects will be activated. If you use it again, it will be deactivated. It's a toggle. On-off toggle. Every 45 seconds, create an illusion. You can create up to 2. If you take damage equal to 50% of your maximum HP or higher, or if the damage you take would cause you to die, an illusion will disappear and the damage will be decreased by 80%. And you get one every 45 seconds. And it only triggers if you would get hit by 50 or higher. Okay, this makes Mastema, Defender of the Demon skill look like absolute dookie, dude. I can't believe these skills are somehow on the same level of being like 5th job skills. For comparison, if you want to know, like Mastema, when you summon it, it gives you 2 charges of able to block a some damage, and it's only like 20%, I think, of a percentage damage attack, but it triggers on every single percentage damage attack. So if you get hit by like one of those small balls in will, boom, there goes 1 charge. You get hit by one of those blue balls or one of the spider legs that only hits you for 10 or 20%, boom, charge gone and skill is dead. If you compare it to this, which is a toggle, and every 45 seconds, there's like basically no downside to having it on. There's at least 1 illusion active. When you're using an attacking skill, it hits an enemy. The illusion will fire 5 arrows that each deal 800% damage 3 times, consuming 80 MP. Reactivation cooldown of 7.5 seconds. Like, not only is it like a guardian angel looking over your shoulder, constantly making you immune, it's also like an extra final attack trigger. So Jealous who plays an arc? No, for my arc it's fine. But for like, compared to demon skills, like for what my demon Avenger has, this is insane. This is really, really good. I feel like it's actually better than what they initially released it as. Now that is to say that the Bowmaster survivability is probably like among the lowest in the bosses where it really matters. There's some bosses where you can really get a lot of survivability by spamming your lifesteal arrow and just like HP tank through things. But in general, survivability on Bowmaster is very bad. Just like in the long run for longer boss fights, it also was for Dark Knight. So these are two very, very strong skills to increase their survivability. But this one is massively good. Yeah, this is really good. And this is only at level 25. I don't know if this would go down if you level up, but I'm assuming that the only thing that will go up is this damage here. Maybe this? Maybe this will go higher as well, but this is probably going to go up. And I think everything else maybe consume more MP or something. Okay, Marksman, which this skill is looking solid too, except Marksman has plenty of issues already going on with it. Repeating crossbow cartridge. Use special cartridges where you fire multiple arrows at the same time. If you reuse the skill, you can use full burst shot, which consumes the cartridges. So you just use the skill, and you'll have special cartridges already. And then you use it again to actually consume... I'm missing like a link here. Because it's like you're going into a special skill that allows you to use special cartridges, and then you have to use the skill again to actually use the cartridges. It doesn't make sense in my brain how that's like set up. So am I using the cartridges the first time or no? How am I doing something different if I'm not using the cartridges? But if I am, then how am I not consuming the cartridges? I'm missing something here. But I think I said that 4 times now, so... For the people who didn't hear it, I'm missing something here. So 700 MP for 60 seconds gains 7 cartridges. And then, you know, you'll just be shooting double arrows for a while, I guess. And then if you use full burst shot, you consume 150 MP, 1 cartridge, and then you fire 4 arrows that each deal 600% damage 9 times with an additional 25% defense ignore and 100% critical rate. This is completely useless, right? You already have 100% critical rate always, and the extra critical rate on a skill is not counted for vicious shot. If it were, this would be really nice, but it isn't. Additional 25% defense ignore, I guess, is nice, although Marksman already has a decent amount of ID in the kit, so it's not super valuable, but 25 is like a decent chunk, I guess. So that can always help. 4 arrows, each 600% damage 9 times. I like that it's low percentage numbers and that a lot of lines, because that's what Marksman needs. Marksman is already on the verge of being like one of the easiest capping classes, which means you get gimped very quickly in how much you can improve your damage as you go higher. I think this will definitely increase the burst for Marksman. It seems a little one-dimensional though. Whereas you compare it to this, I guess it's also one-dimensional, but that one dimension is survivability, making you not die. This one dimension is just like a little bit more damage during the burst, or a little bit. It's probably a significant amount, because there's also other things being tweaked at the same time with Marksman. So all in all, I'm interested to see if this will change the position that Marksman has in the meta for GMS. But, I mean, if you can choose between this and this... you know, with open job advancement, you can just move to the other guy. Because yeah, Marksman has an iframe, but it's a very very high cooldown, so that's not very reliable. And this is just like triggering every 45 seconds. You know. Yeah, the cartridges are only used, but when you activate it, you still shoot multiple arrows though. The vicious shot increase with the bonus? No, it doesn't. So the extra percentage that's on the skill itself doesn't get counted for vicious shot. If it did, that would be really, really good, because that would be an extra 50% critical damage on these skills, but it doesn't. Okay, so Pathfinder has the different installations of beautiful turrets that you can have. This one looks pretty sick, honestly. It's like this one's like, okay, it's like a machine gun. You got a cannon, and you got like a magical sphere thing going on. Completely release the relic's power to install an offensive relic. When Pathfinder's attacks hit an enemy, the installed relic will attack based on a matching pattern. Cannot be used without a relic pattern. Yep. So discharge. Okay, so deluge. So that's the machine gun thing. Burst is the powerful explosion. And then this is what, a torrent, right? Install multiple relics that attack enemies in a certain range at the same time. Oh, multiple relics, okay. Consumes 350 for... this one is for 22 seconds. 1000% continuously. This one is for 10 seconds. Fire arrows that activate 4 explosions, dealing 1250 8 times and up to 10 enemies each, and can fire up to 4 arrows. Huh. Okay, so this one is... So you would use this one during like a 10-second bind or on a stationary boss, where you need to confirm more of the damage in a shorter amount of time, and then you probably use this one on a sorry, this one on a non-stationary boss, right? This one on a stationary boss where you can confirm the 22 seconds of damage, like on Hard Lucid Burst, for example. Yeah, 350 is a lot, I think. Yeah. And then transition is for 40 seconds. Install 3 relics, dealing 1400 5 times and up to 6 enemies every few seconds. So this one is more for mobbing, that you like install them around the map and they just like do damage as you are moving around the map as well, with a 2-minute cooldown. All right, interesting. I think these skills are always very interesting because they have multiple applications, right? So that's why they have to be scaled appropriately as well, because they can be used in a lot of different scenarios. I wonder if the times that they're up changes with the higher level, but we'll have to see, of course, once we get the full details. Pathfinder even easier grinding. Well, even bigger maps that they can actually traverse now. So a Night Lord gets little explosion charms that are hanging onto their shurikens and then explode like that. Throw blasting through knives with explosive tags attached. When the knife hits an enemy, it will explode for a short period of time and attack nearby enemies. If the enemy explosion hits enemies using damage reflect, wow. When you start throwing explosion, 950% damage 5 times and up to 6 enemies. Passive effect, you will prepare and activate 1 explosive tag every 10 seconds. The active effect and passive effect cannot activate at the same time. Oh yeah, true, okay. Active effect consumes 1000 MP for 60 seconds, gain 47 explosive tags. Each attacking skill can use a minimum of 2 to a maximum of 4 tags, with a 2-minute cooldown. So I'm guessing people are just going to use this to make their burst even harder. That's the only thing that makes sense. I don't think you'll use this like off burst to have your off burst bind be a little bit stronger. I don't think that makes sense, because then you're going to be like without domain, without benediction, that kind of stuff. So you would want to use them at the same time. Those 47 explosive tags are done. From what I've seen, they're done in like 8 seconds though. Like they're like immediately gone. Even though it says like 460 seconds, like this is gone immediately. I guess when you're mobbing and you activate it, you can have the explosions fly around and have like a little bit of extra things being killed around the map to kind of close the gap between your Assassin's Mark being able to one-shot before your Assassin's Mark is able to one-shot. But a 2-minute cooldown. Well, so since it's a 2-minute cooldown, you will use it. You will use it on the off burst, and you will use it on the spread throw burst. Okay, that makes sense, I guess. So they have like something extra to use, make their burst a little bit stronger, even. But so still, the main problem for Night Lord is the survivability. This does not provide any survivability whatsoever. So where the other classes, like the Bowmaster and the Dark Knight, did get their survivability issues taken seriously, the Night Lord seems to just get more burst, which was already what they had the most of in the entire game. So as far as balance value goes for this skill, that's going to be a low grade. I don't think, having the 2-minute burst value extra is probably good for the Night Lord, but no extra survivability whatsoever still hurts them a lot for endgame. Shadower, so that one has been tweaked a lot as well, especially specifically with the lines of damage and how many times, like how many extra explosions and stuff that it hits. But basically, you just summon these dudes. They just swipe your opponents a bunch of times, and then one guy comes from the shadows and like does a huge swipe at the end. Demon slashing forward formation. Join with the dark partners in special formation to perform a joint attack. Joint. You can use a skill while using assassin or boomerang step with no cast action. Okay, that's cool. If demon slashing shadow formation hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Wow. The skill does not receive the effects of shadow partner. 1200 repeated partners will appear 12 times, each dealing 850% damage 8 times and up to 6 enemies. Afterwards, the boss will appear. So this is already like a decent chunk of damage. 12 times 850, 8 times, it's 96 times 850. So that's like 80. What is that? 80,000. 80,000%. 850 times 12 times. Was it times 8? Times 8. 81,600, yeah. And then the boss comes and activates 4 slashes that each deal 1250 15 times. So we have 1250 15 times, so that's 75k. On the... No, I'm pretty sure I didn't do that. So that's a total of 130... 156,600 total damage every 90 seconds. That is a shorter cooldown than I expected. That is a pretty... Wow. That is pretty big, honestly. Interesting. These are bigger numbers than I was expecting. Although 1250 does mean that it's ripe for capping when you're, you know, if you're using it like in domain and in benediction, that kind of stuff. That's really ripe for capping though, so that does stop scaling with you after a while. Okay. But yeah, also for mobbing, you can just throw this in and then just continuously these guys are popping up and swiping your entire map and helping you kill, so that's useful as well. Is Hero Paladin good heroes to main? They're good heroes to main, yeah. Hero is more burst heavy for bossing, more bossing oriented, and then Paladin is a little bit more mobbing oriented and more supporty when it comes to bossing, but also has decent burst, but more supportive capabilities to help your team survive and resurrect them and that kind of stuff. Okay, interesting. Big numbers for Shadower. So, I don't know, maybe putting Shadower a little bit more on the map. I think they're still mainly going to be like solo bossers, and that's only viable up to a certain point. But I like the contrast with like the blue and the red. I think that design is really cool. Okay, Dual Blade. So Dual Blade skill saw some transition as well from being a activatable attack as an after image to being an automated attack. Both being able to activate with the main mobbing skill and the main bossing skill. So we'll see how it ended up. So, launch unpredictable linked attacks by letting evil spirits take control of your blade. This skill is automatically activated when you use the Blade Fury or the Phantom Blow. So, so now it's automatically still. Okay, if Blade Fury is used, you get Hunted Edge Sura activated, so this one. And if you use, which creates Sword Waves with a quick swordsmanship, nice, okay. If Phantom Blow is used, then you get Haunted Edge. You get this one? Wait, Haunted Edge Rakshasa. Yeah, this one. Wow, that seems pretty... That seems pretty brutal. Okay, if Haunted Edge hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Haunted Edge Sura Sword Waves do not receive the effect of mirror imaging. Okay. Interesting. Requires level 30 Blade Fury and Phantom Blow. Wow. You have to max your 4th job skill before you can use this 5th job skill. Massive cost. Consumes 750 MP. Reactivation cooldown 14 seconds, so that's quite high. And it is automatic, so... but this is very similar to the Spirit Circle from Kana, right? Because that one is 15 seconds cooldown, if I'm not mistaken. And then also it like activates automatically on some of the skills that you're using. All of the Hunted Edges attacks have an additional 30% defense ignore, of course, because you're a dual blade. Sword deals 550 6 times on 8 enemies, creates 6 sword waves that each deals 750% 3 times. If a single enemy is hit by multiple sword waves, their final damage will be decreased by 50%. Okay, so it doesn't... okay. But that's the mobbing one, so that doesn't really matter anyway. If you're bossing, you're going to be using this. Activate 5 slashes that each deal 400% damage 4 times on up to 2 enemies. Wait, what? Wait, is the quote-unquote single target bossing one doing less damage than the mobbing one? Am I reading this right? 5 slashes that deal 4 damage 4 times. So that's 20 times, so that's 8,000% damage, right? 4 times 5 times 400. That's 8,000% damage. And if you use Sura, it's 550 6 times. And then create 6 sword waves that each deal 750 3 times. But then if a single enemy is hit by multiple swords, their final damage will be decreased by 50%. So the first one hits normal, which is 750 times 3. And then if it's hit by multiple, the final damage is decreased by 50. Is it like 50 for each extra hit or just 50 in general? Because the way I read it, you'll just have this divided by 2 and then times 5 for the extra hits. And then plus the 300 and plus the 250. And you will deal 11,175% damage. With your mobbing skill on a single target. And when your bossing skill on a single target, you'll deal 8,000% damage. I guess it's because it's hit up to 2 enemies? But here it hits up to 8 enemies with this. And it only triggers every 14 seconds. Yeah, so okay, so honestly, if you look at the numbers, this is not going to be any kind of crazy damage. Compared to all the other skills we saw, this is like just a small extra effect of extra damage, which I think is fair, because Dual Blade, I don't think many people will argue, probably already has one of the best kits in the game to do late game and end game bossing right now. The last thing they needed was like a huge extra skill or, you know, an extra buff or a skill on a button that they needed to like cycle in between everything. Just a passive effect that will do extra damage every now and then is like a nice thing to make sure that they're getting something. But this is probably fine for how good their kit already is. If you're a dual blade and you're expecting like to get even more OP, I guess you'll be disappointed. But speaking from every other class in the game, you guys are already fine where you are, okay? So let everyone else take the spotlight on this one. So this, I don't know if they'll rebalance this later, but this seems like this is a very small boost. And only triggering every 14 seconds, so. But it does trigger 4 times per minute, you know, and if it does like 8 to 10,000 damage per time, it's like 40,000 per minute. But yeah, you see other 30 and 60 second cooldown skills hitting for like 100,000, so, you know. But again, those have more qualities. This one is just automatic activate, right? So it's just free damage for them, but it's not that massive. Viper, so he's going to charge the ball, then crush through the map. This thing locks you in place for a whole long time, but it's not an iframe the whole time. So this is a Buccaneer, by the way. Howling Fist. Collect the power of the rough seas to create a strong punch. When you have collected enough power and the punch is created, you will be invincible during the action. Yeah, so beforehand you're not. Howling Fist cannot charge energy. Okay. Consumes 1,750 energy. While collecting energy, deals 850% damage 6 times and up to 8 enemies every few seconds. When the punch is created, activate 14 shock waves that each deal 1,050% damage 10 times and up to 15 enemies with a cooldown of 90 seconds. So that's a lot of numbers. Wait, is that you, Nate? You already have 3 familiars activated? Oh, wait, is that easy to do? Damn. Congrats, dude. Nice, nice. I'll be working on that later. Yeah, so a lot of damage in this, but I wonder... so basically, this is just a burst skill now, right? And you have it every 90 seconds. So... I guess yay, Buccaneer has some burst. Big numbers though. Let's do some maths on that one. So while collecting, it does 650 6 times and up to 8 enemies. It doesn't collect for that long though. Every few seconds. This probably only ticks like a few times. But you know, 6 times 850, and then let's say that it ticks like 3 times or something. I said 850, not 85. So it's already like 15k damage, right? That's already 1.5 times the effect of the Haunted Edge. But of course, they're just bursting at the same time. And then the punch is created, 14 shockwaves of 10 damage. So then we have 140 times 1050% damage activating for the total of 147,000% damage. So a total of like 162,000 plus. Which that's a nice little chunk of damage. But yeah, you have a 90-second cooldown, and you can be using other skills while you're doing this. But that is a nice chunk of damage, and since Buccaneer doesn't really have that much burst right now, and you also have to remember, you're using Lord of the Deep close to the boss while you're doing this, so Lord of the Deep is continuously hitting the boss as well. The charge hits 8 times? Okay. So 3, so 5... so 25k more then? So like closer to 190,000? It looks really good, yeah. The problem is that like while you're charging, that doesn't give you an iframe, so you can only really start using it when you're already bursting. But yeah, 14 shockwaves, 10 times. The up to 15 enemies is just a big meme, because I guess it, you know, it looks really good when you use it and when you're mobbing, because then the whole map is just like completely... But yeah, it looked really cool when it got activated. Captain, so that's Corsair, basically gets a skill that where they shoot and then it just like ricochets through the map, hitting a lot of targets very close by. I don't know why that effect isn't on here, but fire bullets that pierce the enemies and bring them to death. The bullets will move towards their targets, and after piercing through them, if there are still more attackable enemies, they will ricochet to nearby enemies and hit everything in their path. If the first bullet fired hits an enemy affected by continual aiming, all of the bullets will target that enemy. If the ricocheted bullets hit an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Fires 7 bullets that each deal 1,150% damage 11 times and up to 7 enemies with a 45-second cooldown. So it seems that it's both going to be a nice extra bursty skill on bossing and be useful for mobbing because of how they ricochet and how the AI on the bullets is calculated. And it's 1150 damage 11 times. That's a decent amount of damage too. That's like 122,000 damage with everything included, I think. Close to 121,550, right? Wait, what? Oh no, it's only 12,000, of course. Wait, why did I add that 0 there? 12,650, yeah. Hang on, I gotta do that in my head. 1111 is 121. 121, 126, 1265. Yeah, okay, now it makes sense. Okay. Sorry, I gotta train my brain for some of those quick maths. Cannon shooter's skill looked very, very underwhelming in the beginning. Was tweaked a little bit, but probably not enough. We'll see where they finally ended with it. Poop Maker fires shells, create multiple craters on the ground. After a short period of time, the shells will fall on enemies around the cannon shooter, prioritizing boss monsters with the highest HP in range. Or an enemy that survived a previous shell. If there are no enemies to attack, the supply box that can be used by party members, including yourself, will be dropped instead. If there are no platforms for the shells to fall on, or you are hanging on a rope, they will not fall. While there are still remaining shells to activate, if you change maps or reset the cooldown, the skill will end. Okay. If the shells hit an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. You can use approaching supply boxes by pressing the up arrow key on them. Okay. So it consumes 1000 HP, fires 20 shells, and each deal 1400 damage 3 times and up to 8 enemies. Yeah, so basically you just shoot in the air, and then as you're walking by, things just come raining down and destroying things. Supply box remains for 20 seconds. If used, recover 17% of your max HP, and acquire a 20-second buff that increases your damage by 27%. Only up to 2 supply boxes can exist on the map at the same time. 17% heal and 27% damage for 20 seconds. It's not horrible, and it's a 60-second cooldown, so I don't know. What are you watching new skills? Yeah, these are new skills that were announced initially a month ago in KMS, and then were reworked again 2 weeks ago, and that we're now seeing the final versions of that are hitting the KMS server today, or hit them yesterday, I guess. And that we will probably be getting in about 6 months in our following winter update. So it's good to know to see what's coming next. No, we haven't reached the Demon Slayer yet. So Mihail has a scuffed zoomed in debuff. Mihail has seen some changes as well. In the beginning, it was just a reduced damage to team members and to yourself kind of thing, more survivability. But then became more of an attacking skill with also more damage. So let's see where... like a buff to your existing skills. Shine Light of Unrelenting Courage to remove your allies' fears. Enemies hit by the Sword of Light will be inflicted with the Light of Courage debuff, which causes Mihail's attacking skill to activate an additional strike. Okay, that's nice. You can reuse a skill to immediately end it, activating Pillars of Light to damage enemies with the Light of Courage debuff. You can end this skill with no cast action while using Soul Assault. So we see this a lot with skills, that you are able to use them during other skills with no cast action. So that's going to be very useful to just save time and to just get quote-unquote free damage in. If Light of Courage is activated, attacks hit enemies using damage reflect, you'll not take damage. Shocker. For 25 seconds with a 90-second cooldown, so that's a decent uptime, almost 1/3 of the time. Increase your damage by 22%. So that will probably go up as this levels to 30, I'm guessing. Probably up to maybe 25%. And every few seconds, create a Sword of Light that deals 650% damage 5 times and up to 4 enemies. Enemies that will be inflicted by the Light of Courage debuff, so that's this one. Which stacks up to 6 times, and the debuff can only be activated on up to 15 enemies at the same time, which is a decent amount. Light of Courage, activate an additional slash that deals 350% damage 2 times. When the skill ends, create Pillars of Light. So those are... The Pillars of Light are these... Yeah. So there'll basically be an explosion at the end, which each deals 750% damage 10 times. The number of pillars will be increased based on the number of Light of Courage stacks. So if something is debuffed 6 times, the skill ends, you get 6 of these explosions, each dealing 750% 10 times. So that could be a decent chunk. That could be up to like 45,000 damage. 45,000% damage. Including yourself, party effect, including yourself, create a shield for each party member equal to 260% of their maximum HP. The shield will last for 10 seconds, and the shield amount will be decreased by 7% every 1 second. But, I mean, yeah. So it's a 90-second cooldown, and you're basically giving your party almost a 10-second iframe. That's essentially what it comes down to. Unless they're literally getting wailed on by every single thing that exists, for the next 10 seconds, it's basically going to be impossible for them to die. And you give it every 90 seconds. So that's another really big chunk of value for team survivability, which Mihail already had a lot of, but they're even better at it now. And they're getting some extra damage from the light debuff stacks. But I'm wondering if that's... Well, yeah, if you get the 6 debuff stacks and you get the 45,000% damage explosion there, that's pretty big on your target. Plus, you empower your Light of Courage. You empower your... you're sort of light. So I think yeah, more of a skill in the theme of Mihail that makes sense, but also increasing their damage. So the face when you get rolled back half of Ark's intro zone because of the maintenance. Oh, didn't log out in time. Dawn Warrior time, or Soul Master. So this is basically like a final attack explosion that is a that is active for like a lot of the time, and that just constantly does extra damage for you. Explode the aura of your forged soul. This skill is activated when an attacking skill in Falling Moon or Rising Sun stance hits an enemy, so it can just always trigger. When you switch stances in Soluna time, when Cross the Sticks hits an enemy, or when Celestial Dance creates an afterimage, this skill's reactivation cooldown is decreased. So it's basically something that's always active, but by cycling through your skills more and using certain skills, you can have it activate even more and more and more. So it's kind of another form of one of those skills that just does more stuff for you without you. It can change your playstyle a little bit, but you don't have to put it on a key, monitor cooldown, all of that stuff. And then if Flare Slash hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Wow. So it does 1100% damage 7 times and up to 10 enemies every single time it activates, and the reactivation cooldown is 12 seconds. So this is already basically the same as the dual blade one, but with a slightly lower cooldown. And a slightly lower damage. But the cooldown is decreased by 0.3 seconds whenever you switch stance in Soluna time, by 3 times that amount, so 0.9 seconds, when Celestial dances after image attacks, and by 1.2 seconds when Cross the Sticks hits an enemy. Which, if you guys know, there's a mode where you just spam Cross the Sticks non-stop, in which case this thing is going to explode a whole lot of times as well. So the burst that's already decent for Dawn Warrior should see probably quite a nice increase to their burst there as well. So this will be very interesting to see if this will put Dawn Warriors definitely on the map and maybe increase their ranking a little bit when it comes to bursting and stuff in the late and end game. Very interesting extra skill. I like it. Flame Wizard, you get a little bit of a what is it? A lizard? Oh, Salamander, that's what it is. Summon Playful Flame Salamander to help you. When Flame Wizard's attacks hit an enemy, Salamander will target and attack nearby enemies. If the total number of hits in a single action is reached, or you move further than a certain range, Salamander will return to your location. When Salamander attack... Oh, so you, like, put him down somewhere. Or he'll just go off on his own and then sometimes come back, I guess. Okay. Collect Embers. Yeah, when he hits an enemy, collect Embers, which increase the power of Salamander's attacks, and when it disappears, receive a magic attack buff based on how many Embers you have. This buff does not receive the effects of Buff Freezer, sure. If Salamander's attacks hit an enemy using damage reflected on taking damage, the boss monster with the highest max HP will be prioritized, but ignition effects will not be applied. Okay. So it's a 90-second cooldown, and it lasts for 60 seconds, but it does have a maximum amount of hits. So if it reaches that maximum before the end of the timer, you still have to wait for the cooldown, of course. He deals 300% damage 7 times on one enemy, consume 100 MP, and bounce up to 12 times in a single action. So he's just like going all over the map. Whenever his attacks hit an enemy, you collect 1 Ember, and the Salamander's final damage will be increased by 1% per Ember. So you can collect up to 40 Embers in one duration, and then when he disappears, you get a 30-second magic attack increase of 15 plus 2 per Ember collected. So if you max out, you'll get 30 seconds. 30 seconds of up to 95 magic attack buff, which is pretty big. That's basically like an apple. Like an Amoria PQ apple stacking on you. So again, seems both usable for mobbing and for bossing, and gives you like a big static buff. Pretty short cooldown. Seems like a solid skill. Yeah, don't know what else to say. It seems very solid. All of the Blaze Wizard mains in the chat, rejoice. Let me see those rejoices. There we go. There's a trash can on fire. Crickets. Crickets in the chat. Wind Archer. So this skill has changed a little bit as well. They slowed down the movement, increased or decreased, I guess, the interval of damage, so it does damage more and faster. And increased the range of the ball as well. So basically you just shoot like a giant ball out. It's like a shuriken for Wind Archers, kind of. Condense a powerful wind into a sphere and shoot it forwards. Every few seconds, a gust will be activated around the sphere, pulling in nearby enemies. If the vortex sphere hits an enemy using damage directly when I take damage. So, dealing 800% damage 6 times on up to 10 enemies. Every few seconds, a single enemy can only be hit by the sphere up to 20 times. But yeah, it moves forward a lot more slowly now. In the beginning, it was just like Shuriken, where it just like flies through. And now it's a lot slower. It's not quite as slow as the Cannoneer big bullet bill, but it's like in between the two in speed, I guess. Yes, everyone does job advancement will get 1 extra node slot, and you will also get the skill automatically when you job advance. And if you've already job advanced, you'll have like a month where you can just complete 1 quest and then get the extra skill for free at level 1. But no iframe still, but Wind Archers do have the third fee that gives you a shield that operates as if you have like a mini iframe, right? As a reduced incoming damage. But still no iframe, no. No legitimate iframe. Nightwalker, finally, we have the true skill for Nightwalker. With a giant throwing star at the end. And, if I'm not wrong, you can like, spam the attack key while you're doing it to increase the duration. Throw a countless number of stars at a rapid speed. Yes. If you use this skill while in the air, you will continue to stay in the air while throwing stars. For 2.7 seconds, so they reduced that duration by a lot. Continuously throw shadow stars, which each deal 950% damage 3 times. After they're thrown, throw giant shadow stars for a final attack, dealing 1700% damage 13 times and up to 10 enemies. If you press the skill repeatedly while using the skill, you can extend the throwing time for up to 4 seconds more. Ah, okay. So you can get it up to 6.7 seconds in there. Yeah, so if you're soloing and the dude is not bound, you know, because it has 90-second duration, you can still just get hit normally, right? So you don't want to just be there like a sitting duck and get absolutely wailed on and die. But if he is bound, then you can just spam the key and make it last longer and do like a lot of burst. No, for mobbing, I don't think there's any use for this. Maybe, you know, in the beginning, if you have trouble with elite monsters and elite bosses, you can use this one, you know, to dispose of them a little bit more quickly. But that's about it. Give you the link. Exclamation mark KMS. We'll give you the link.
Hey yo.
Hey yo, Fates. Welcome back, my dude. Thank you for the ongoing support. 23 months already. How you doing, bro? We're looking at the final forms of the current 4th V skills for all the classes in KMS that came out yesterday/today. And hopefully will be coming out for our winter update. So we're almost halfway, I think. It's gonna be another long video. But yeah, viability for sure. Continuous damage, nice, and flexible duration, so that you can use it how you want. And again, relatively short cooldowns. Most of these skills so far have been relatively short cooldowns because we haven't gotten to Demon Avenger yet. Striker skill, we saw, so that's Thunderbreaker, in the beginning be seeming really, really strong, and finally some burst. And then with the second change, they seem to have completely gutted the skill, remove all of the lines and all of the damage. So I'm interested to see if they rolled back some of those nerfs or if they were keeping it as a very just average skill for a already pretty average class. Or below average, I guess. Nothing against you Thunderbreakers, but like your bossing and burst is just tough. especially for reboot. I'm talking about a reboot perspective here, limited access to damage. Use unlimited chain attacks together with lightning. If you use the skill continuously, you can activate the chain attacks during the skill. All skills except for thunder can be linked. If the lightning hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. For 60 seconds, gain 12 chain attacks. Deal 750% damage 5 times on up to 4 enemies. If it hits an enemy, activate 3 lightning strikes that each deal 1000% damage 4 times on up to 3 enemies. The lightning will activate in different places. Final chain, 1200% damage 7 times on up to 7 enemies. If it hits an enemy, activate a giant lightning strike that deals 1450% 6 times on up to 8 enemies. Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of this where it's like, okay, the uptime compared to the cooldown seems pretty decent, but then the problem is that you have a limit to how many times it can activate. We see this in a lot of skills. So this doesn't mean that much, because if you activate all of these in like 3 or 4 seconds because you're just like, you're going fucking crazy, then you're dealing with like a skill that basically has like 6 seconds uptime and 120 second cooldown, and then it's not nearly as good anymore, right? Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm like a fan of these like arbitrary limits. I'd rather them do like it just lasts for 20 seconds and then you can just use it however many you want. I mean, yeah, it's like a design choice, but I'm not sure if this is enough for Thunderbreaker. Like, there are thousands of percentage of damage here, for sure. But if you see what other classes are getting and what Thunderbreaker needs, I don't think this hits their needs. But, you know, I'm looking forward to videos of KMS and seeing, you know, like BAs and stuff to see how much their battle analysis burst goes up in percentage with the new skill implemented. I hope that it has a really good big impact on their damage, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough to, like, put them on the map at all when it comes to the bossing for Thunderbreaker. Some of them look really cool, but KMS is really unhappy with this patch because they were expecting new areas and new classes and stuff, and they're not getting any of that, and they're kind of mad right now. They're mauling over there. Aran gets their bind finally. Blizzard Tempest create a blizzard binding enemies and unleashing the Direwolf's curse. Enemies hit will resist binds from Blizzard Tempest and other bind skills for 90 seconds after the bind is over, of course. When enemies inflicted with the Direwolf's curse are hit by an attack by attacking skills other than Boost End, Storm of Fear, the curse will grow stronger, and that enemy as well as other cursed enemies near Aran will be hit with an additional attack from pieces of ice. If the piece of ice hit an enemy, damage flag, blah, blah, blah. So the skill deals 1600% damage 8 times and up to 12 enemies, binding all enemies hit for 10 seconds. It's always nice to have like a multi-target bind. None of that Urdanova cook-ass bullshit. The bind duration will be increased by up to 100% based on the amount of damage that Blizzard Tempest deals. Yeah, I'm not sure. This is there for like all the binds, but I'm pretty sure it's not really relevant for most binds. The new point capping skill is what? Is it? I heard a lot of people like it, actually. After attacking, activate an aura for 20 seconds that inflicts a Direwolf's curse on up to 6 enemies every few seconds. You can reuse the skill to instantly end the aura if you want. Okay. Direwolf's curse, 10-second duration. When an enemy is hit, create a piece of ice that deals 950% damage 4 times on up to 15 enemies. The curse can stack up to 6 times, and the number of pieces of ice created will be increased by 1 per stack. Oh. So create an active aura for 20 seconds. And inflicts the curse. And for 10 seconds, when you hit an enemy, you get a shard for an extra explosion. But it says the curse can stack up to 6 times. So that means if you hit 6 enemies at a time, they're all cursed, then you get 6 extra explosions. Or you stack the debuff stack the curse on a single target multiple times. Because it doesn't say here how you would apply multiple debuff curses on the same target. Because it just says if you bind them and then after attacking you activate an aura that inflicts the curse on enemies. Oh, every few seconds. Oh, I see. Okay. So if you stay close to them, you can give them multiple debuffs. And then if they have multiple debuffs, you get multiple stacks of ice every single time you attack them. It seems like a lot of extra damage, honestly. With a 3-minute cooldown. Okay, so that makes sense. So for soloing, this is kind of weird. It's kind of awkward, like 180 seconds. But it actually does look nice. Yeah, the Bowmaster got buffed, dude. Like, it's crazy now. Every 45 seconds, you get a mirror image, and it takes off 80% of the damage if it would deal 50% of your HP or more. Don't even care that it does any damage. Like, it's a really good skill. Damn. Do 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 do. Okay, but yeah, this seems like a solid skill, and they have a bind now. So goodbye, Erd Nova. Hello, Blizzard Tempest. Okay, Evan. So this is like an install skill where you can install your mana circle, and it'll just do continuous damage, as we saw in the video, right? It's like the first skill that shows up there. So Circle of Mana Magic Circle becomes the Mana Sphere, spinning like a tornado. You can activate a skill while using Circle of Mana by pressing the down arrow key together with Circle of Mana again after the first hit. So that's very similar to installing your chain as a Cadena with your third V skill. Only one Spiral can exist at the same time, also similar to that skill. If you use Circle of Mana while it is active, Spiral of Mana's number of hits will be decreased for a certain period of time. If Spiral of Mana hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Okay, so you can still use the skill if you want to while you have it installed, but then the install will become weaker and deal less lines of damage. For 7 seconds, deal 260% damage 6 times and up to 6 enemies every few seconds. Wait, every few seconds? No. This should be continuous damage, not every few seconds. Wait, hang on. Where's the video? What? Huh? Wait, it's not continuous? Wait, why did this... Oh, they're not showing any numbers. Wait, how am I supposed to know how much damage it does? Why is the skill here and the boss here, but they're not interacting with each other at all? Just go look for a... Wow, okay. Well, how about you go look for a vid and link it to me? I'm doing this shit already, okay? Okay, I was not aware that it was every few seconds. I thought it was continuous damage. If it's every few seconds, I don't know how good that is. Invisible damage skin? Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. No, there's no hit effects either. If Circle Mana is used, Spiral of Mana's number of hits will be decreased by 3 for 1 second. Yeah, that's 50% damage only. That's pretty big. Cooldown of 4 seconds, but it lasts 7. Okay, so you can reinstall it pretty quickly. And a passive effect of 30 magic attack. Boom. And now, so I don't know. This seems kind of average. We'll have to see how it works on the day. Yeah, you can double dip now is the idea. Yeah, it's extra damage for sure. Mercedes. So this skill is a giant meme so far, where you have the giant animation, and then once you can see the map again, you're dead to some kind of attack. And you summon a bunch of simps that just like fly through the map and kill for you. So the Honorable Guardians. Okay, sorry, Honorable Guardians. They have their own preferred title. Who protect the Queen of the Hells. My queen, my lady. The Royal Knights hit enemies using damage reflect. You will not take damage. Consumes 1200 MP. You are invincible during the skill's cast action and end action. But apparently right after the cast action, once you can actually see the map, you're immediately vulnerable and can die. For 30 seconds when Mercedes attacks hits an enemy, 4 knights will appear, each dealing 650% damage 4 times. Reappearance cooldown is 1.4 seconds. With a 2.5 minute cooldown. That's always an awkward timer. And it's a 30-second duration. What is this? You time-stamped it. Is this Steve? What is he doing? Just use it, Steve. Show us. Well, he's using it on Zakum, so we have no idea of... So it seems continuous, right? Or they're alternating perfectly between the arms and we can't see it. See if he uses it here. It is continuous. It's not every few seconds. From when is this from? Showcase? Oh, that's from June 21st. Yeah, that's from a month ago. Yeah, so that's probably different. That's probably wrong now. Oh, finally the follow bots are here. Wait, new Twitch view bot? Search on YouTube. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it looks continuous to me as well. But that's from a month ago, so that's probably been reworked twice. So yeah, we'll have to make sure that this is like oh, I'm on the wrong scene. That this is translated correctly. Must have got them all. He's on it, dude. He's on him like a sweaty t-shirt. This skill, yeah, I'm not sure what to think about this skill. Mercedes is kind of like Dual Blade in that sense that they already have like a solid kit and like a decent, very solid endgame, so they're probably not going to get like the best skill in the world. But an iframe that hopefully is reliable. We'll have to see this in action. And some extra damage for 30 seconds every 2.5 minutes. Seems like something that could work, but if you really have this animation that you have to sit through, you lose so much damage as well from that, even if you're immune during this. Yet, I don't know. I don't know about the design of the skill. I think the effect could work, but I don't know why this has to be a thing. If it isn't continuous, the 1 second debuff makes no sense. Yeah, that's also true, right? Yeah, so I think it's just a mistranslation. All the mods active on Thursday. True. Phantoms. Phantom is like a big zigzag skill through the map with explosions whenever you hit something. Rift Break. In an instant, move to a gap that the enemy didn't see. Oof. Critical hit. When used, you will unleash your attacks in your current position. You can use this skill with the down arrow key to instantly move the furthest enemy in range multiple times. If you use the arrow key during the teleport attacks, enemies in that direction will be prioritized. If you use the skill during the teleport attacks, you will stop at that location, and the cooldown will be decreased by the number of remaining teleports. You can only stop after at least one attack has been made. Yep. If Rift Break hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Nice. Activate an attack that deals 800% damage 7 times and up to 10 enemies, or utilize up to 7 teleports. With a cooldown of 30 seconds, and cooldown will be decreased by 3.5 per remaining teleport. So I guess you could just use this when you're mobbing to like zoom, 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 zoom. Right, if you've seen the videos, you can just like go like the Dragon Ball Z fighting sequences like through the map and just create explosions wherever you are and just kill everything for a little bit, like every 30 seconds. Who cares about damage when you can watch anime? True. Does anyone have the video of the Mercedes using that skill and dying right afterwards? Yeah, I think we showed it in a previous video. Have I talked about the lack of red cards in Reboot? I did previously when when version 2.13 came out already. And then we get to Shade. Like, it's dumb. I think we should have them. Then we get to Shade, which has changed a lot over time, which started like an 8-second cooldown, 8-second hold down skill, and then went down to like 4 seconds, and then down to 2 or something. Which is now a 1.3 second key down skill, which almost makes it silly to be a key down skill, but okay. 800% damage 5 times on up to 10 enemies continuously for 1.3 seconds. Ooh, 1.3 seconds, guys. When the key down ends, activate 3 final attack shockwaves that each deal 1900% damage 15 times on up to 10 enemies. If the final attack hits an enemy, they will summon an additional 15 Firefox spirits. I don't know if you've seen that video, but so that triggers 3 times, so like 45 extra Firefox spirits. This is actually like a big, a big meme burst for Shade. Which will be additionally nice when there's when you're on a what is it, in a moving boss, right? Because then you create a second image that you can also hit. Shade will go brrr, but only for 1.3 seconds, but they will go brrr, yeah. Does anyone have that Shade video with all the balls? Yeah. While using Smash Chain Punch, you will take 50% reduced damage, including percentage HP attacks, and attacks will have a 100% chance of summoning Firefox Spirits, with a cooldown of 90 seconds. We're seeing a lot of 30, 60, and 90 second skills, cooldown skills here. Knuckle users got a good patch in general. Yeah, the initial, from the very first look, I would definitely have said yes to that. After that, I wouldn't say all the Knuckle users, but in general, most of the Knuckle users, yeah, got nice stuff, I would say so. Luminous is going to create extra balls, because, you know, Luminous just loves electricity and energy balls. What can I say? Reveal the power of light and darkness through an orb. Oh, we'll call them orbs, fine. When a skill matching your Larkness state. Oh, is that light and darkness together? Larkness? Hits an enemy, the orb will activate an attack with the same attribute. The attribute's magic will be accumulated in the orb. If there is one or more magic accumulated in the orb, you can release it and attack. The attack will target the boss monster with the highest magic. The target will target the boss monster with the highest maximum HP in range. Okay. Minor light and darkness magic accumulated is the same. The damage will be increased. Magic cannot be accumulated while in equilibrium state. The orb's activated attacks are not affected by Sunfire, Eclipse, and Equilibrium's effects. If skill hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Nice. Passive effect deals 750% 4 times. Reactivation cooldown 6 seconds. You can acquire up to 4 magic of each attribute. Light, create 1 light area which attacks up to 3 enemies. Darkness, fire magic bullets that hit up to 7 enemies. This is all passive. Okay. And then active, consume 1200 MP, 3-minute cooldown. For 20 seconds when your own attacking skills hit an enemy, 10 magic orbs will be created to attack 1 enemy with an additional 100% critical rate. When the total sum of accumulated magic... I don't know why they do this, like ever. Everyone has 100% crit rate, man. That's like the basic thing to do, but whatever. When the total sum of accumulated magic exceeds 1, the damage is increased by 50% points for every magic attack. Recreation cooldown 1 second. Unbalanced. Magic orbs will deal 1025% damage. If it's balanced, 1050. Oh, that's barely a difference. It's like, it'll deal more damage when it's equal. Yeah, 25% damage on 1025. I mean, it's more, but it's barely noticeable. Is this the video of the Shade? Oh, yeah. Shade go. Brrr. Brrr. No, but wait. Wait, it's the end. Not bad. No sound? Oh, you want it with the sound? Oh, my bad. It does sound pretty good, honestly. That's pretty nice. Okay. This one seems, I don't know, like average, I guess. Like not like amazing, not super weak, but like average, but just like an extra skill. But the 3-minute cooldown is a little bit memey, right? The off traditional burst cooldown skills are always going to be a bit memey to activate. And now we get to Demon Slayer, the skill that has seen quite some rework over time and is now, I think, probably in a spot to put Demon Slayer in a very, very commanding position to be one of the top contender classes in the game, I think. Demon Bane, but let's see if they can deliver on that. Erupt a powerful force to destroy enemies. If you hold the key down for the maximum duration, the force will surround your body, making you invincible with a more powerful attack. Consumes 60 Star Force, which isn't that much. Consumes 2,000 HP, which isn't that much, but you have everything else already consuming a lot of HP, so. Deals 650% damage 6 times and up to 5 enemies continuously while the key is held down for a maximum key down of 3.6 seconds. If you hold the key down for the maximum duration, become invincible for 3 seconds while dealing 1,300% damage 7 times on up to 12 enemies continuously. All attacks have an additional 50% crit rate and 30% defense ignore with a 2-minute cooldown. Wait, did I say Star Force? Oh, well, there you go. It says Force, but I meant Demon Force. So since it's 4 minutes, you can only use it every other bind, which makes sense because it's a big skill. Are you sure it's bad, Ape? It's from the last videos I've seen, it's absolutely massive in damage. In the beginning it was very bad because you would just get hit by something and you would get interrupted and it would totally fizzle. But yeah, so yet another iframe. It's mainly this damage at the end, the 1,300 7 times continuously. It doesn't say here for how long, but it's a lot of percentage. Someone did the numbers for the percentages, and it's pretty crazy if you can hit like the full thing. But yeah, it's got to be a matter of hitting the full thing. And as an arc, I know that skills that you have to hold down and you have to channel for a long duration. A lot of bosses tend to like move around every now and then just all of your damage kind of like goes away. But that's more like a bug in the game than it's a legitimate, counter to your skill or something. Iframe is at the start, so it's terrible. At the end, well, no, you can use an iframe yourself, or you could just do it when the boss is bound. You're not gonna die to most shit when you're channeling this. I don't think that makes the skill bad at all, Ape. From what it says, you can get hit at the start and lose a skill. Wait, what? No. So you could be interrupted in the beginning, in the first time, and everything that hit you just interrupted you and stopped the channeling of the skill, but that's not the case anymore. In the second, in the second rework, they removed that part. Like if you get hit by something, you don't like get knocked around by like regular attacks and it doesn't interrupt you anymore. Yeah, if you get CC'd or if you get but that works with every single channel skill. That doesn't make the skill bad. That just means that you have to play around that. So you just have to bind your enemies so they don't knock you down anymore. And then you just hold it down and burst them. Yeah, so you can use well, no, super stance doesn't always work because even if you have impenetrable skin on, you could still get stunned by stuff. Yeah, like in Lotus, something could fall on your head, but that's the risk that you take with one of these skills. It's the same with the arc skill, which I always forget the name of, the hyper skill. There's a lot of damage in that one, but if you get unlucky and you get hit by something on the head and it stuns you, then you lose a lot of your potential damage. Yeah, that is true. But if you hit it fully, it's insane. And I think you're going to do everything that you can to make sure that you can hit it fully, because this is a lot of damage. I heard, like, from the numbers I heard, it's like north of 300%, of 300,000% damage for just this skill if you hit it fully, which are some massive numbers. And now, Demon Avenger. Let's see if they did anything to the cooldown and the number tweaks on this. But basically, the rundown is that Demon Avenger, you can still get hit by damage, but you just won't die to it for a long period of time. And the more you get hit, the more rage you build, and the more rage you have, the more of these spikes pop out of you doing damage. And then at the end of the skill, you take damage based on how much rage you have left, which can kill you after. Well, the rage damage itself can't kill you, but everything else can kill you and will kill you because the rage is keeping your HP very low. So, and it does go through Forbidden Contract as well, so it's easy. So due to your endless rage, become a ghost who has crossed the border between life and death. Ooh. During this skill, you cannot have lower than 1 HP. All damage taken will be stored as rage. Stored rage will become thorns that attack nearby enemies, but after the skill ends, the stored rage will be received as pain. As pain. During the skill, you can use it again to cancel it. If the thorns of rage hit enemies using damage cancel or damage reflect, enemies will still take damage and the reflected damage will be ignored. While Revenant is active and when you're receiving the stored rage as damage, you will be in combat status, obviously. Okay, so it lasts for 35 seconds. Is that the same as before? 35? I think so. When an Exceed skill hits an enemy, activate Thorns of Rage that deal 600% damage 9 times on up to 5 enemies with an additional 30% defense ignore. Ooh. Reactivation cooldown of 4 seconds. When you receive damage, the damage will be stored as Rage up to 200% of your maximum HP. Based on the stored amount, the Thorns of Rage reactivation cooldown will be decreased. Every few seconds, the stored Rage will be decreased by 7%. After the skill ends, you will receive damage equal to the stored Rage and 5% of your maximum HP divided into 25 parts. Okay. This damage cannot kill you, but when you get ticks from this, everything else can start killing you. 37 seconds at level 30? Okay. So this is very, very useful for like Hard Lucid Part 3. But for everything else, I don't know if this is ever really useful, but... The 20... Wait, is this an increase to 25 parts? Was this less first? Under 25% maximum HP damage? No. You can store up to 200%. And then an extra 5% of your maximum HP. So it can go up to 205. And then that can be divided into 25 parts. So if it's 205%, then 25 parts is about 8%. So you get like ticks of 8% of your HP, which is like 40k. It used to be 15 ticks of 75k, and now it's 25 sticks of 41k. Yeah, okay. So that is more manageable. That is actually more manageable. Just take a Rune Force Shield and play Suicidal DA. Oh yeah. Rune Force Shield plus this, plus Frenzy. What an interesting class it is, though. But yeah, I'll be interested to see. I'll do an actual battle analysis. Actually, I can do one now today because I have all my stuff on. And then do one again after this and see how much that changes my actual burst. That'll be interesting. Demon Shield seems good for this skill. That's a lot of damage. And then switch it afterwards, after the skill. See the DA Hard Will solo? I did not. We can look at that after this. That's interesting. Blaster. Ooh, 60 FPS animation. I like it. This is 30 FPS bullshit with this one. The Blaster skill has seen a lot of buffs over the reworks. And it almost looks like a solid 50% uptime Shadow Partner at this point, with added effects for mobbing that it can appear all over the map as well. So let's see how they rework this one. After image shock. Sweep enemies with a powerful attack that creates an after image. If the after image's attacks hit an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. You can reuse the skill during the effect to end it if you want. The active effect consumes 1000 MP, and for 3 minutes with a 4-minute cooldown, so that's very high uptime, 75%. Whenever an attack using the Gauntlet Revolver hits an enemy, which is a lot of your attacks, create an after image that deals 900% damage 5 times on that enemy. The after image can be activated up to 99 times in total. Reactivation cooldown, 0.2 seconds. So again, right, 180 second high uptime, but like a limit to how many times it can activate. So if it's activating all the time, 0.2 seconds activation, can go up to 99 times. That can still end, right, way within this timer. But 99 is a decent amount. Passive effect during after image shock's cooldown. Whenever an attack using the Gauntlet Revolver hits an enemy, create an after image that deals 1000% damage 3 times on up to 7 nearby enemies that weren't hit by the attack. The active effect and passive effect cannot be activated at the same time, and the reactivation cooldown is 6 seconds. I think this is a very good skill, a very nice skill with a lot of utility for Blaster. You can actually use Revenant when Damien's sword hits the ground, bind Damien, stand into fire, and burst like hell. True. You should just come out and say that they wanted to give them a shadow partner. I like giving classes similar skills, but like skinned differently, so it doesn't feel like everyone is just a copy of each other. I like that. Some people will be like, well, just come out and say that it's actually this. But I like the fact that they're trying to make it a little bit different, so it's not just everyone has a shadow partner now. I prefer that, but you know, I guess people have different opinions on that. Looks like I'm moving back to DA. Yawn. Well, I mean, why is it a yawn? If it's a yawn, then why would you do it? Hey, thank you for the follows, guys. Welcome. Does anyone main Aran? Some people do. Some people do, but it's not that many, I guess. This new bind seems pretty cool. But yeah, I think very good. I think a very nice skill for blasters, but not sure if it's enough to keep people playing blasters. But let's see. Battle Mage creates some portals that you can teleport between. Apparently gives them a lot of their damage. Let's see if they tweaked it a little bit more. Abyssal Lightning. Your Black Lightning is transformed by covering your surroundings in black magic. When Dark Lightning is activated and you use Teleport, Abyssal Lightning will be activated instead. Every few seconds, create a passage to the underworld around the Battle Mage. You know, casually creating passages to the underworld, as you would. Just a casual Thursday. You can use this skill with the arrow keys to instantly move to the nearest passage in that direction, destroying it. Abyssal Lightning will be created along the path you moved, hitting enemies and inflicting them with a black mark. If the Abyssal Lightning hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Okay. You're invincible during this skill's cast action and end action. They're doing a lot of that these days. So an extra iframe for this duder with the 200-second cooldown. Okay. For 35 seconds, create 2 passages to the underworld every few seconds. The passages will remain for 15 seconds, and up to 4 passages can exist on the map at the same time. Okay. So in the beginning, they'll exist, and then after that, you'll constantly be removing the 2 oldest ones for 2 new ones. Abyssal Lightning consumes 75 MP. It activates 3 lightning strikes that each deal 1000% damage 5 times and up to 8 enemies, with an additional 100% crit rate and 20% defense ignore. If Abyssal Lightning is activated instead of Dark Lightning, the final damage will be decreased to 70%. Okay. Is that less than it was before? I feel like it's around the same as the second rework that they did. Give DS Shadow Partner? Yeah, that would definitely be balanced. I've hit a wall on DS and regular server, 40k stuck. I see. Yeah, like the Bowmaster sales, kind of like a shadow partner, but he only activates every now and then, and he's mainly there for, for taking away lethal damage, that kind of stuff. DS shadow partner? Oh no, yeah, that would be crazy. I don't know enough about Battle Mage to really evaluate this skill, but it seems from the videos I've seen, from the second rework at least, that it was a lot of extra DPS for them. So that's nice. Nice for Battle Mage. Classes that are not like top shelf, top tier, that are more in the realm of being supporty. I like it when they get some love and get some extra buffs and get like rewarded with, the the lesser damage that they can do themselves and kind of like sacrifice that to bring more value to the party instead. I like that that gets rewarded, you know. Did they forget about Blue Blood? I mean, it's kind of, yeah. It's kind of like Shadow Partner, I guess, yeah. Maths, Maple Stories rating. What's up, Maths? How you doing, bro? We're looking at the official KMS release versions of the new 5th job skills. We're now at Wild Hunter, so you came in just in time. I know you're an avid Wild Hunter player. Wild Vulcan type X, so like a big burst skill. Use a prototype crossbow. This is clearly a crossbow, as you can see. Maximizes firepower with resistance technology. You can move while using the skill. Consumes 1000 MP. Maximum key down duration is 8.5 seconds. Deals 950% 4 times and up to 8 enemies in front of you continuously with an additional 20% defense ignore on a 2-minute cooldown. Honestly, from what I've seen, this skill rips. Can I link the post? Yeah. Oh, there they go in chat. Exclamation mark KMS. Yeah, it looks like the arc skill, but it lasts longer. But yeah, the effect looks very similar to the arc skill for sure. Yeah, it's like the same color scheme, the same type of sprites for sure. They nerfed it. Did they nerf the 4 times? Like the very first version was like 6 lines, I think, right? You think Hayato and Kana will be getting new skills with this event comes? Yeah, Hayato, Kana, Jet, and Beastamer will not be in this patch, but will be also getting new skills, but we won't know those until later. Yeah, they did nerf it compared to the first release, but I still think this skill rips, though. It's like 4,000% damage almost continuously for 8.5 seconds. I think this is going to increase the burst of Wild Hunters quite a bit. The first version, I think, was OP. Yeah, massive lines, yeah. Yeah, we'll probably see... So typically when these kind of things come to JMS and GMS, JMS gets them like a little bit before us. Like a week or 2. And then we should be able to get some sneak peeks and some teasers from what the Hayato and the Kana skill would look like. And then maybe the Beasthammer one. And then Jet Zen just like... basically just drops as a surprise in the patch notes themselves. That's typically how it goes. So Xenon gets like a big targeting skill where you can shoot a bunch of extra little pew 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 photon rays. Use a photon cannon that attracts and attacks enemies. When you use a skill, you will enter the aiming mode for a certain period of time, during which that's a lot of text, dude. During which it will aim shots one by one. If the aiming is complete, oh look, you have a guys, Xenons. You can finally have a skill that you can hold down the whole time, and that will charge up. I know you guys aren't used to that, so basically you just hold it down while you're using other skills. And then, okay, that's a joke because they have a skill that they've been holding down for like their whole life. Okay, the first few aimed shots will be completed. Sorry, very quickly, while later shots will be slower. Additional aimed shots will target the boss monster with the highest maximum HP range. While aiming, if you attack the enemy being aimed at, it will complete faster. Okay. If you move too far away from the enemy currently being aimed at, the aiming will be cancelled. If the aiming mode duration ends before you fire the ray, all aimed shots will be cancelled. Ooh, all of them. Ouch. Does it also mean that if you're aiming on someone and they just move out of your range, then your skill is just fucked? If you're doing this on Damien, they just teleport away, rip all damage? Yeah, I don't like keydown skills either. Especially not on 250 ping. If Photon Ray attacks an enemy using Damage Reflect, you will not take damage. This skill does not receive the effects of Virtual Projection. You can fire shots with no cast action while using Purge, Lob, Masquerade, Meltdown Explosion, or Mega Smasher. Oh, that's cool. Mega Smasher is the huge cannon, right? This seems lackluster, though. But from what I saw, the actual damage is good. But it seems lackluster, but if it does hit. So for 20 seconds, activate aiming mode. Consumes an additional 350 MP if you fire. After completing 15 aimed shots, you can prepare up to 15 additional shots. The Photon Cannon will deal 700% damage 4 times per shot. That is a lot of damage, though. And it only has 35-second cooldown, but you have to hold it for 20 seconds. So it seems like a high cost, high reward kind of thing. Anyone else missing their Keep On Burning box? Are you sure you redeemed it before the event? I haven't checked if I have it, actually. Mechanic skill has seen some rework as well, with faster repositioning and faster increase in the amount of interceptors that fly around. If you guys ever played StarCraft 1 or 2, this is basically the carrier, the Protoss carrier with the interceptors flying around. Is basically what it is. Monka gun in the chat. Summon an air carrier concentrated. Oh, they even call it a carrier. Okay. With the essence of resistance science, aircraft will attack nearby enemies, then return to the carrier, gradually increasing the number of aircraft that are sent out. If the mechanic moves away from the carrier, it will instantly move nearby. The aircraft are not included in Robot Mastery's number of summoned robots. If the aircraft hit an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. Nice. Summon a carrier for 70 seconds. On the first attack, 9 aircraft will be sent out and then return to the carrier. Every further attack will have 1 additional aircraft up to 16. Deal 500% damage 4 times on the target, then return to the carrier. Every individual carrier will do this. Over 70 seconds. And then cooldown of 200 seconds. What an awkward amount of time for a cooldown. Exactly half the amount of the Demon Avenger skill, which is also very awkward. You think I should still make a Mesoform Arcana instead of a Lumi? It'll depend on how much you play. Do you think you'll be playing more than the duration of the totems? Lumi has to rely on the totems or Arcana on a secondary computer to be able to farm for longer duration of time effectively, whereas Arcana can always do it, and for shorter durations of time you don't have to rely on a totem. So that will be a more solid option there. So it depends on how much you're planning on playing, basically. And if you really hate playing Kana, for example, then that can be something that throws a monkey wrench in the plans as well. Where get this info from? This is translated from Orange Mushroom blog. Max makes these pretty much always the day of or the day after big KMS releases, and translates them for us so that we can get updated on what is happening in KMS, so that we know what's coming for us in 4 to 5 months on the regular updates, and in 6 months when it comes to the seasonal updates. Dragon Blaze borrowed the power of the ancient dragon who has the personification of flame to become flame itself. This skill, I think, is before was like it seems like a really good skill, like a nice extra burst for Kaiser. But let's see. Flames surround your body, attacking nearby enemies. Fire auras will be left at places where you pass. So these are the fire auras. When your own attacking skills hit an enemy, the fire auras will explode, dealing damage in a wide area. If you reuse the skill, it'll instantly end. While it's on cooldown, when your own attacking skills hit an enemy, create flame orbs that cause additional attacks. If Dragon Blaze attacks, okay. Consume 1000 MP. For 20 seconds, flame will surround your body, dealing 500% damage 6 times and up to 8 enemies around you every second. Few seconds, sorry. Fire aura 5-second duration. When they explode, there will be an explosion at the fire aura's location and the Kaiser's location, dealing 750% 5 times and up to 10 enemies, with a re-explosion cooldown of 3.6 seconds. Okay. And then Flame Orb creates 6 Flame Orbs that deal 700% damage 3 times, recreation cooldown of 10 seconds. And a 2-minute cooldown on the skill in general. I don't know, man. This seems like a nice extra burst skill for Kaisers. Yeah, they'll probably get them out of the average range and a little bit above average, honestly. Because those numbers are nice, and it's just a lot of it is also an additional damage. And it even does stuff when you're on cooldown, you know? So that's always... It's nice to have these big skills that just always do something for you. And then even more when you can activate them. Kind of a good option to do if you want to farm for less than 2 hours, unless you don't mind using less than 2 hours of a totem. Yeah. Get a problem, Luna. Okay. Cadena. So big amount of chains just coming out of the woodwork. Some of them disappearing in the background. Weapon variety finale. Your weapon usage mastery reaches its limit, allowing you to use more powerful additional attack. I guess we could zoom out a little bit. You guys aren't blind, right? If weapon variety finale hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. When certain attacking skills hit an enemy, the preparation time is decreased. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I like those skills that have a set cooldown, which is kind of high, but then if you cycle your attacks properly and you just do that a lot, then you'll be able to activate the skill more and more. I like that system in general because empowers cycling through your attacks, and it disincentivizes just holding down one skill over and over and over. Which, you know, some classes have that innately, some classes don't have that at all. But yeah. Weapon variety's additional attacks hit enemies 4 times. This will be activated around the enemy's location. Activate 4 additional attacks that each deal 500% damage 7 times and up to 7 enemies. You'll prepare 1 weapon variety finale every 11 seconds, and you can store up to 3. Ooh. When Chain Arts, Tough Hustle, Chain Arts, Takedown, Crush hit an enemy, the preparation time is decreased by 2 seconds. And when Chain Arts Fury hits an enemy, the preparation is decreased by 1 second. Wow, you can get a lot of these. I like this. This is really going to empower Cadenas who are animation canceling like crazy and cycling between all their attacks. This looks really cool. And then Angelic Buster has a similar type of attack. Has the Trinity, right? The 3 effects. Just blasting through the map. Really impressive animation there, honestly. Trinity Fusion. As Scardor's concentrated power is fired all at once. You can activate this skill by pressing the down arrow key together with Trinity. You can activate the skill while using Trinity. During the cast action, you cannot be knocked back by any attacks, and you will take reduced damage. Ooh, I didn't know about that part. Did they add that? So it gives you power knockback and reduced incoming damage. Wow. Can you skip Pathfinder story and train at the golems? I think you have to do the story. I'm pretty sure you have to. If Trinity Fusion hits an enemy using damage reflect, you're going to take damage. Trinity's stacking damage buff and defense ignore buff when it hits an enemy will apply to this skill. Nice. Activate 9 Dragon's Essences that each deal 355% damage 3 times up to 7 enemies. During the cast action, you will take 17% reduced damage, including HP attacks, and a cooldown of 14 seconds. And a passive effect of 35 dex! Holy shit! Oh my god, let me... Do you guys love dex? 35 of them. That's a whole bag of dex, dude. I heard that ABs love dex. It's one of their favorite things, from what I heard. Game breaking, I know. This might have to be tweaked later, down to like 31 or something, because this is massive. Then Zero, I don't know anything about Zero, so I'll be brief with this description, but I know that people from Non-Reboot also watch these videos, and they do like us going over this stuff, so... Ego Weapon, your weapons with their own wills attack enemies. This skill is activated when Zero's attack skills hit an enemy. Alpha and Beta's cooldowns will be applied separately. If Ego Weapon hits an enemy using damage reflect, will not take damage. Lazuli creates 9 sword slashes that each deal 350% 6 times. And Lapis creates 3 great swords that activate 2 shockwaves, each dealing 350% damage 9 times on up to 4 enemies, with only a 15-second cooldown. So this will trigger a lot. And this is just a passive thing that just happens in the background all the time. Wow, so this is like free extra damage, just like a lot of the other skills. Zero, moving on. No, but this is just free extra damage, yeah. It's pretty solid. Kinesis started off as a horrible skill, then got a little bit better. Let's see where they ended it up with. Law of Gravity, maximize law of universal gravity, where objects attract each other, of course. The skill will attack and debuff the monsters with the highest HP and range. The debuff causes nearby enemies and objects to be pulled into the enemy, dealing damage. The more enemies and objects that are pulled in, the frequency and damage will be increased, because black hole, snowballing, yada yada. If the debuff enemy dies or disappears, a gravity orb will appear, which fulfills the same law. If any law of gravity's attacks other than the first one hit an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. You can reuse... Wait, other than the first one. Okay, that makes sense. You can reuse the skill instantly to make the debuff or gravity orb disappear. It consumes 5 psychic points, that's not that much. Deals 400% damage 6 times on one enemy, then debuffs the enemy for 22 seconds, pulling in nearby enemies. Every few seconds, pull in up to 6 enemies, dealing 1000 damage 8 times. Based on the number of enemies pulled in, the attack frequency will be increased up to 3 times. And the attack's final damage will be increased up to 40%. If there are no enemies nearby to pull in, objects will be pulled in instead, being treated as the same as the maximum number of enemies. Okay. So why do you say up to 6 enemies? Because it's always going to be 6. Because if there aren't 6, you're just going to drag in other stuff out of thin air that will count as enemies. So why do you say up to 6 enemies? That's just confusing. So this damage is guaranteed. So and each of them deal 8,000 damage. Wait, so every few seconds you deal 48,000% damage? Have I gone over Phantom already? Yes. It's basically like a big zigzag, like you just flash through the map, killing everything. And if you don't use all your flashes, then the cooldown is decreased. So then you can use it more quickly later than that. Wow, so this is 48,000% damage every few seconds. Wait, this is a lot out of nowhere. And it's debuff for 22 seconds. You can't find Kanas. This is the KMS patch, and Kanas don't exist in KMS. So Kanas, Hayatos, Beast Tamers, and Jet will not be on this list, and we'll have to wait for that later until that's released. And then the attack's frequency will be increased up to 3x based on the number of enemies pulled in. So it gets even stronger over time, and the final damage will be increased up to 40%. When the duration ends, an explosion is activated. It deals 1200% damage 15 times and up to 10 enemies. And the cooldown is down to 60 seconds. Whoa. Okay. This skill started being like absolutely horrible and doing nothing. This is looking like it'll do a lot of damage. Like, I'm not sure here if this damage is dealt in one go or if every enemy deals this damage. I'm not 100% sure. Because if this is 8,000 damage per tick and that increases, that would make sense. But if this is 48,000% damage that ticks and increases, then that is massive. So, because it says dealing, it doesn't say each dealing. So I'm not sure. Yeah, this is KMS. This is live. This is a third iteration of the skills and the final, like, actual implementation version of the skills. Yeah, so if it's just 8,000 ticks, then that makes sense. If it's 8,000 like per enemy, then this is probably one of the better skills, like, entirely. With this low of cooldown as well, it's crazy extra damage. But so I'm guessing it's just like absorb, bam, up to 8,000% damage, boom, every single time. But that's still good though, because it'll start going faster, and it'll be up to 40% extra damage. So that's like 1,400 times 8, which is 8,040. It's 11.2k damage. Still, like in intervals, that's still good. So it's probably that. Adele gives like a giant storm of swords around you called Storm. But apparently it was lowering your DPS because you weren't able to use Hunting Decree during this because it absorbed your swords. Absorbed them. All of the other swords commanded by order will move around your body like a storm. All other swords commanded by order will disappear. If Storm hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. For 14 seconds, your blades will surround your body, dealing 500% damage 2 times and up to 7 enemies around you for every few seconds. Again, this says every few seconds, but I think it means continuously, right? This doesn't look like it would be an every few second thing. With the number of other swords that disappears exceeds 1, the number of hits will be increased by 2 per extra other sword. So what is the highest amount of swords you can have again? Is 8, right? So you can have 7 extra swords disappearing. So the number of hits can be increased by 14. Dealing damage 16 times? Being 8,000% damage continuously? Well, then it would have to be every few seconds. Then it wouldn't be continuously. Because you can't have an 8,000% damage hurricane for 14 seconds around you. So it would be slow every few seconds. Okay. Still though, if it's 8,000%, even if it ticks like every 2 seconds, that's still a total of like 50k damage. But it goes at the expense of your swords being out, so it's probably not as massive. But the swords stay for that entire 14 seconds, right? So during that 14 seconds, you don't have to spend time resummoning them. So at 8% final damage increase. Okay. Cooldown of 90 seconds again. 90 seconds is a little bit weird, a little bit awkward, but it's pretty short, so you can probably play around that. 90 seconds just makes sense for a solo play, right? Because that's when like the bind cooldown timer. But for a party, 90 seconds is awkward. Okay, Illium started as just a portal with damage around it, then gained a bunch of lasers shooting out of it, and now we see the final form, Crystal Gate. Using advanced crystal technology to install passages that let you move freely between them, you go near the Crystal Gate that you installed, and you press the up arrow key, you will move to the next installed gate. If you use the last installed gate, you will move to the first one. Wow, that's usually how gates work. When you use a gate, it requires charge time before it can be used again. The most recently used Crystal Gate requires additional charge time. You receive an enhancement and attack support buff while near a Crystal Gate. You can install gates while in the air. Not affected by buff freezers and required movement distance. We're activating flow of battle. Okay. Oh, that's your link skill. Okay. For 155 seconds, you can install up to 3 Crystal Gates. After installing 2, they will begin to work. The install time and the Crystal Gate durations are the same. Okay. After you use a Crystal Gate, you cannot use any Crystal Gate for 2 seconds, and the one that you just used cannot be used again for 5 seconds. While near a Crystal Gate, acquire a buff that increases your magic attack by 55 for 25 seconds. Ooh, instead of like 30% damage. Okay, that's a lot less. But this was in the first rework already, I guess, in the second version. While the buff is active, when your attacking skills hit an enemy, activate 5 bombardments through Crystal Gates that each deal 900% damage on up to 3 enemies. Reactivation cooldown of 1.5 seconds and a cooldown of 3 minutes. This is a high uptime. Well, this sure is a far cry from just giving you some portals to move through. Seems a lot more useful. Illium skill is 3.68% of the 40-second BA at level... yet. Okay, I don't know. That was a bad link. It doesn't ignore DR? I guess not. This one doesn't ignore DR, dude. Clipboard messed up. Oh, there we go. 41 second. Trying to sneak in that extra second, guys. This is an extra 2.5% DPS. 3.68%. Okay, so that's like... So it adds to the DPS by like 4% or something? A little bit less than 4%? I mean, people like 4% final damage, I guess. I guess the question is, does it go at the expense of using a lot of other skills? Also, if you die, you lose them, even with buff freezers. Yeah, that is true. It does say that it doesn't get locked by buff freezers, so... Wait, did it say that? Or did I remember reading that from a different skill? Oh no, it doesn't say that here. I guess you'll keep the buff, but not the actual gates. Oh, here, yeah, it says it here. Okay, okay. Whew. My memory was better than my reading skills. It seems to be good for mobbing. Yeah. It seems to be really good for mobbing mainly. Arc, here we go. What the fuck is this? Eternally Hungry Beast effect? Wait, I've never seen this before. Nani? Here's a small map effect. And here's the Godzilla Chomp. Eternally Hungry Beast. Call a starving beast that eats everything through a passage connected to the depths of the abyss. You know. As you would. Casual. After the passage opens, the beast will appear after a certain period of time. If attacking skills that use the Spectre's power hit enemies, it will appear faster. If Eternally Hungry Beast hits an enemy using damage cancel or damage reflect, enemies will still take damage. That's what Arcs do, that's what Demon Avengers do. I guess that's my theme, huh? Consumes 500 HP, boohoo. After a certain period of time, activate 18 shockwaves that deal 2,100% damage 5 times and up to 12 enemies. Wait, did they mess with these numbers? Wait, this is lower, isn't it? Oh, wait, but this is level 25, so this still goes up. But yeah, this is like a decent chunk of damage, because it's 18 shockwaves, activating 5 times, dealing 2,100% damage. Oh no, that's still the same percentage. Oh, but this is only level 25, so that's going to go higher. Enemies hit got reduced, 12 enemies. Oh, it's possible that it used to be 15 or something, but I don't really care about that, because everything is already one-shotting at that point, where you really care. So it's more about hitting boss damage anyway. Look, these are the numbers that we're looking for. 189,000 damage in like a single chomp while you're doing other stuff. If attacking skills that use the Spectre's power hit enemies, the attack will activate 0.6 seconds faster. Continuous type skills and certain skills will only apply 30% of the reduction. Yeah, that makes sense. With a cooldown of 2 minutes, so it can be used every burst. It's going to be interesting extra burst damage for Arc. So for the people wondering, this is about... No, it was 100 and... it was a little bit more or something. I don't know. But this is about the same amount of damage as... I don't know if you guys have ever played Arc or ever seen Abyssal Recall, right? Where you see like the anime picture in the beginning and you see like the whole history of Arc and blah, blah, blah. And the sad manga story with Albert and all that. And then you have the big explosions at the end that triggers a bunch of times. It's like... And the whole map is full of damage. That damage at the end is less than this. It was 15 enemies hit? Okay. So like that giant explosion there that does those massive amounts of damage is less than this amount for this skill. So we're basically getting an extra, slightly stronger, extra final Abyssal Recall explosion. Pretty massive. But not completely for free, of course. Has to be earned, but will be earned. And then Ho Young, which seems a very interesting skill as well. Say Teachings, Heaven, Earth, Human Apparition. Master your tactical arts, creating a special clone that links attributes. When Ho Young's attacking skills, except for fake real skills, hit an enemy, the clone... Oh, okay, except for fake real skills. Okay, that's a good thing to note. Hit an enemy, the clone will appear and attack using an attribute you were not using, completing the link. During the active effect, if you achieve Stage 3 attribute link, all of the skill cooldowns of one of your Heaven, Earth, Human attribute skill will be reset. All of the cooldowns of one of your attributes will be completely reset. The attribute will be chosen by prioritizing skills that are all on cooldown. Okay. If Sage Teachings Heaven, Earth, Human Apparition hits an enemy using damage reflect, you will not take damage. So, passive effect is a clone appears that deals 1,250% damage 6 times up to 4 enemies with a cooldown of 5 seconds? Before it reset all your attribute skills? Okay, that would have been crazy. But the passive effect is 7,500 damage every 5 seconds? So to contrast that with the dual blade attack, the dual blade attack does 8,000% every 14 seconds. So this is the passive effect of this skill is already like 3 times the dual blade one. And then the active effect, for 30 seconds, the passive effect will activate 2 times with no cooldown. Then a 2-second reappearance cooldown will apply with a 100-second cooldown on the skill. It seems like a solid skill. Yeah, a little bit out of Nightlord. Yeah, so that is what the Ho Youngs definitely needed, was more stable damage, more consistent damage, because they were very Nightlord-like indeed, where they had very high burst and an off burst their damage was a lot less. And I think this skill will allow you to compensate for that. And the fact that it only has a 100-second cooldown does give you access to that skill quite a bit with 30-second up and a very strong passive effect. Many skills in here with just like super strong passive effects that just because of having the skill in general just gives you a huge buff already. And then activating it will make it all the more stronger. Wow. So a lot of... I don't know why the Korean community just really likes their new skills and their new areas, I guess. Their new classes and their new areas. But I think a lot of these skills are really cool and really promising. So yeah, we're definitely wanting to see what Jet gets, you know, because they're the trendsetters. They're like the big dicks on campus. We really have to see what Jet is doing. You know, they dictate the meta as they are. Did I say Jet? I meant Kana, of course. What Kana gets, what Hayato gets, what Beasttamer gets. I don't know if it's going to be anything that saves the class. What Jet gets. Maybe some burst damage for bosses. Finally, it's going to have to be massive to put any kind of dent in the how far they're behind at the moment. But we'll see. So yeah, Shadower damage looking massive. Bowmaster, extra survivability from that looking insane. Bishop skill looking Dark Knight skill looking very promising. Yeah, a lot of good skills, honestly. A lot of solid skills. I'm very happy with a lot of these reworks. There's only a few that I'm thinking like, well, maybe like 5 or so. But most of them seem actually pretty cool. I'll link the website. You can check !KMS in the chat, and I'll give you the link under the KMS header, because this is an official KMS release now.
Suction.
What is my ranking among the skills? I think I would rank lower than MapleStory attacking skills, because I'm just a mortal, you know? What can I do? I cannot damage things in video games. People can't use me and throw my body at things. Oh, wait. We can check this video real quick. I haven't seen this. Oh, wait, I have. But whatever. Full screen! Hello? Okay. Oh, because I'm already in full screen? You have to exit full screen so I can full screen? Oh, here we go. Oh. Hacha! Ha! Damn! Wow, and the girl is a mage, of course. Squad W. Some Attack on Titan references there. Shingeki no Kyojin. The Philosopher's Stone. Oh, wait, did he get him? Did he get him, chat?